Pay rent, or get out, Mom. Her words sliced through me like glass. My daughter, my only child, stood in the middle of the living room. Her arms crossed, her face red with rage. I stared at her in silence. The home she was screaming in, I had built it, paid for it, protected it with everything I had, but she didn't care. She wanted me out. I smiled faintly, though my heart was breaking. A week later, I sold the house. Every brick, every memory, every sacrifice, and when she realized what I had done, her world crumbled before her eyes. But to understand why I did it, you need to know how everything began. My name is Linda Parker, and I am 57 years old. For most of my life, I believed being a good mother meant giving up everything for your child. When my daughter Carla was born, I thought she was my miracle. Her father, David, wasn't exactly thrilled about parenthood, but I didn't care. I poured myself into raising her. When Carla was 9, David left. He said he couldn't handle the pressure of family life. He walked out one morning with a suitcase and never came back. From that day, it was just me and Carla against the world. I worked 2 jobs, waitressing during the day and cleaning offices at night. Sleep became a luxury. My body ached, my mind was foggy. But when I'd peek into Carla's room and see her asleep, with her little stuffed rabbit, I knew it was worth it. By the time Carla turned 13, I had managed to buy us a modest 3-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood. That house became my sanctuary. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. The mortgage was suffocating at first, but every payment I made felt like planting a seed for Carla's future. I remember one night, I came home after a double shift, and my hands were raw from scrubbing floors. Carla was sitting at the kitchen table, drawing in her sketchbook. She looked up and said, "Mom, when I grow up, I'll buy you a big house so you never have to work again." I cried that night, tears of pride, of hope. But children grow up, and sometimes, the promises they make when they're young vanish into thin air. At first, Carla was a sweet teenager. She helped with chores. She did well in school, and she even got a part-time job at a clothing store when she was 16. I thought I had raised her right, but somewhere along the way, new friends, independence, things began to shift. By the time she was 21, Carla barely spoke to me unless she needed something. Gas money, rent money, tuition money, and every time I gave in, she rolled her eyes like it was nothing. "Mom, it's just money. Don't be so dramatic," she'd say. She didn't understand that every dollar I gave her meant another night I skipped dinner, another shift I took on, another bill I pushed back. When she graduated college, I thought things would change. She got a good job at a marketing firm. I imagined her moving into her own apartment, building her own life. Instead, she came back home, boxers in tow, announcing, "It'll just be temporary until I save up." Temporary became permanent. Months turned into years. She stayed in the house, never offering to help with bills, never lifting a finger to clean. And when I gently suggested it was time she contributed, she snapped back, "I didn't ask you to have me. Mom, providing is your job, not mine." Those words shattered me. Still, I bit my tongue. I told myself she was stressed, that she'd come around. I wanted so badly to keep peace, to be the understanding mother, but the disrespect only grew. Carla started throwing parties at the house when I was at work. Neighbors complained about noise, about cars blocking their driveways. When I confronted her, she shrugged. "Relax, Mom. You act like this is your house." I froze. My house. I had worked 20 years to pay it off. 20 years of pain, sacrifice, and exhaustion, and she acted like it was hers by default. Still, I stayed quiet. But inside me, something was beginning to crack. One Thanksgiving, the whole family came over. My sister, my nephews, even Carla's cousins. I spent 2 days cooking, preparing the perfect meal. As everyone sat around the table, Carla raised her glass and said, "I'm just thankful I have a roof over my head, even if Mom complains about it all the time." The table went silent. My face burned with embarrassment. My own daughter mocking me in front of family. But it wasn't just that. After dinner, I overheard her whispering to her cousin, "Honestly, once Mom's gone, this house will be mine anyway." I'm basically just waiting it out. Those words nearly brought me to my knees. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. My mind replayed every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every skipped meal, and for what? For my daughter to treat me like a burden in my own home? As months passed, her entitlement only grew worse. One evening, I came home from work to find a pile of unopened bills on the counter. Electricity, water, property, tax, all overdue. I asked her, "Carla, did you get the mail this week?" She didn't even look up from her phone. "Yeah, I left them there. They're your responsibility, not mine." I felt like a ghost in my own home, invisible, used. And then came the breaking point. The night it all came crashing down was strangely ordinary. It was a Tuesday evening. I had just finished another long day at the diner, my feet aching, my apron smelling of grease and coffee. I came home hoping for some peace. Instead, I walked into the living room and froze. Carla was sprawled on the couch with her boyfriend. Empty pizza boxes and beer cans scattered across the coffee table. The television blasted some reality show, laughter and drama filling the room. "Carla," I said softly, trying not to sound angry. "We need to talk about the bills. They're piling up again." She didn't look at me. She just groaned. "Oh my God, Mom, not this again." I swallowed hard. "I'm serious. The power company sent a disconnection notice. If we don't pay by Friday, they'll cut the light." Finally, she turned her head, eyes narrowing. "Then pay it. What do you expect me to do?" Her boyfriend chuckled, sipping his beer. "Babe, chill. She's just stressing." Carla sat up suddenly, her face red. She pointed at me like I was a stranger in my own home. "Pay rent or get out, Mom," she shouted. The room went dead silent. Her boyfriend's smirk faded. Even the TV noise seemed to vanish. I blinked, my heart hammering. "Excuse me? You heard me," she snapped. "You're the one mooching off me. You don't pay rent. You don't contribute. You just nag. If you can't handle living here, then get out." I stood there, stunned. My daughter, my flesh and blood, had just called me a freeloader. The woman who gave birth to her, who worked herself to the bone to buy this house, who kept her fed and clothed for years, now reduced to a burden in her eyes. Something inside me hardened. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just smiled. "All right," I whispered, "if that's what you want." Carla rolled her eyes. "Good. Glad we're finally clear." She turned back to her boyfriend, dismissing me as though I were a stranger, renting a room instead of her mother. But in that moment, I made a silent promise. This house may have been a prison for me, but soon it would become her nightmare. That night, I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking of every sacrifice I'd made. My body trembled with rage, but also with a strange calm. I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I dug out the old file box from the closet. Inside were the house documents, the deed and proof of ownership. My name, only mine. Carla's name wasn't anywhere. This house was mine legally, financially, historically. For 20 years, I had carried it alone. Now, it was time to let it go. The following day, I visited a real estate agent. His office smelled of coffee and fresh paint. I laid the documents on his desk. "I want to sell," I said simply. He blinked, surprised. "This is a nice property. Are you sure?" I nodded completely. Within a week, the house was listed, and to my shock, offers poured in. The market was hot. People were desperate for homes in our area. One couple came to tour the house, a young husband and wife, pregnant with their first child. They walked through the halls with awe, touching the walls, imagining their future. When they looked at me, eyes shining, the husband said, "This feels like home already." For the first time in years, I felt hope. I accepted their offer at $140,000 cash. While the paperwork was processing, I stayed quiet at home. Carla had no idea. She continued her life as though nothing had happened, throwing parties, mocking me, treating the house like it was hers. Every insult, every dismissive glance only fueled my resolve. Finally, the day came. I signed the papers at the realtor's office, my hands steady. The house was no longer mine. The money transferred to my account instantly. I walked out of that office lighter than I had in decades. But the real show was about to begin. That evening I packed my essentials into 2 suitcases. I had already rented a small but cozy apartment across town. It wasn't fancy, but it was peaceful and it was mine. At exactly 7 p.m., Carla returned home from work. She walked in, dropped her purse on the floor, and froze. The living room was empty. Boxers stacked, pictures gone, shelves bare. "Mom, what the hell is this?" she demanded. I sat calmly on the couch, suitcase by my side. "I sold the house," I said evenly. "You need to leave by tomorrow morning." Her face went pale. You what?" "I sold the house," I repeated, my voice steady. "The new owners are moving in this weekend. You don't live here anymore." She laughed nervously, waiting for me to say it was a joke. But when she saw the manila envelope in my hand, the official documents, her smile vanished. "You can't do this," she stammered. "This is my home." I stood up, looking her in the eye. "No, Carla, this was my home. You told me to pay rent or get out. I chose to get out and take the house with me." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "Where am I supposed to go?" she cried. I shrugged. "Maybe ask your brother. Or your friends. You'll figure it out. You're an adult." By midnight, she was still pacing, cursing under her breath, calling relatives. She begged my sister to intervene. She called my nephews. She even tried reaching her father, who hadn't spoken to her in years. But no one could change what had already been signed. By morning, the police arrived to enforce the move. The officers were calm but firm. She had no legal claim to the property anymore. Carla broke down in tears, clutching her purse, screaming at me, "How could you do this to your own daughter?" I looked at her one last time, my voice calm but cold. "You wanted me out. Now we're both out. Consider this a lesson in gratitude." And with that, I walked away, leaving her sobbing in the driveway as the new owners pulled up, excited to start their life. As I settled into my new apartment, I sat by the window, sipping coffee. My phone buzzed with message after message from Karlangar, guilt, begging. But I didn't respond. I had given her everything. She had given me nothing but disrespect. Now, she would learn the price of entitlement. And me, I was finally free. I whispered to myself, a smile tugging at my lips. She told me to pay rent or get out. So I got out and took the house with me.